Peace and welcome to Rooted in Muddy Waters podcast. I am your host, Tamika Latoya. Now, I have my iPad here. I'm a bit of a rambler, so I have to have my iPad just to stay on point so that I'm not rambling and going off on some other stuff. I want to try to stay on topic, so that's basically how this podcast is going to go. But what I want to do first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I came up to create this podcast, Rooted in Muddy Waters. So, my name, again, is Tamika Latoya. I am a woman. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a daughter, a sister, friend. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm also a homeschool mom. I'm a woman who has many titles, who wear many hats. I'm an empress. I'm all the things. And I've grown and come to be proud of each title in its own special way. But I want to be able to share my growth with you all in hopes that it helps and it serves others. And so what I want to go into next is like how I came up with this podcast. So this isn't my first time trying to do a podcast. This isn't my first time trying to do a YouTube channel. I have attempted to doing this one time before with my homeschool business. I've attempted to do this one time before with my husband. And it just didn't work out. And it didn't work out. And I know why it didn't work out. It didn't work out because we weren't consistent. I mean, life happens. You know, my husband's always working. I'm doing things with the children, trying not to get burnt out, you know, being a mom, homeschooling, running businesses, being creative, like all the things, right? And so it kind of just got away from us and it kind of let it fall to the wayside. But that's okay. And then, you know, and now I am starting this podcast, Rooted in Muddy Waters. And I just want to go into a quick story time on how this podcast came to be, right? So I don't know if anyone believes in the power of sexual energy and what it can do for you as a person when you are aligned with spirit, when you're aligned with yourself, and when you have a partner that is as well. That energy that you create during those times is very, very powerful, and you can easily manifest. You can easily bring things from the spiritual realm into the physical realm if you are focused, if you are aligned, if you know, are in tune with self. And so I believe that that is very much possible. And so on this certain night, that's what my husband and I was doing, and we were just manifesting, getting some things, you know, off our chest as to what we wanted to manifest and bring into the physical realm for ourselves and for our families, right? And so right after, you know, laying down, cuddling, getting ready to go sleep, pass out, you know, and a voice was like, start your podcast. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't say what out loud. I was just like to myself, like, what was that? And so I'm like looking around the room, and I'm like, okay. And then there's this 2020 vision board that I've had on my wall since 2020, before all of this craziness happened. And I never took it down because there's still things on that vision board that I want, still things on the vision board that I want to accomplish. And so something was like, call it this. And on this vision board, I have the title Rooted in Muddy Waters, which was originally supposed to be my poetry book that I wrote years ago and just never released it. And so I was like, okay, Rooted in Muddy Waters. And so, you know, the voice told me, start your podcast. The voice said it again. Higher self said it again. And so I went to sleep, fell asleep thinking about it. Like, okay, fell asleep, woke up, talked to my husband about it. And of course, him being the person that he is, he was super supportive. He was like, do it. You know, so this is where we're at. This is how we are now here. So what you can expect from the podcast is you're going to again, I already know that I as a person kind of struggle with consistency, but because spirit is telling me to do this, I am going to follow spirit, and I'm going to listen, and I am going to do what is asked of me. Because if spirit told me to do this, then there has to be a reason for it. And so that's what I'm going to do. So you're going to get an episode from me every week on Thursdays. A new episode every Thursdays. We're gonna have topics talking about motherhood, marriage, relationships, homeschool, spirituality, all the things. I'm not really a person that jumps on any type of trends. So unless it's something that I strongly have feelings about, or I feel strongly about, I'm not going to be doing trendy things. I'm not going to be doing no drama. That's not the energy that I bring. That's not what I'm about. But if there's ever something that's in the public or in the news or whatever that I feel like, okay, this is a topic that needs to be talked about, I'm most definitely going to bring it and we're going to talk about it. I may have a few guests here and there. Most likely you're going to probably see my husband on a few episodes. And also some other women that I know that have something to say and have something to bring to the table about some of the conversations that I want to have for this podcast. You may even hear a few poems from my book, Rooted in Muddy Waters. And I might even take you through the process of getting that book published, because now that Spirit has told me to create this podcast, I'm going to also publish this book, and I'm going to talk to you all about my whole mind state and where I was at when I created this book, and how me just going back and reading these poems is like really like mind-blowing to me, of the transformation, the growth, and how much I've evolved throughout the years. So you may even get a few poems, as you just got a poem at the beginning of this episode, which I wrote right before I decided to create this podcast. So what is the purpose, right? What is the purpose of this podcast? And it took me a minute to sit down and think about it, because again, Spirit gave me this Spirit was in my ear, right? And Spirit told me to do this. And so I had to think, okay, well, if I'm doing this, there has to be a reason. It has to be the purpose. What is the purpose of this podcast? And I guess this is kind of when we can just jump into our first topic, and that is going to be community, right? I've been in a mind space where I've been like wanting or seeking community. And I've been stepping back from certain communities just because I didn't like the way that things were being done. I didn't like the way that people were moving. It made me feel uncomfortable, it made me feel away. And it also made me not really judge anyone, but just take a second look at, what some people are actually calling community. And it made me question, what kind of community do I want for myself? Or when I think of community, what is it that I want? Or what is it that I seek when I myself want community? Because everybody's not definition, but everybody's view on community, or what they seek in community, is different. And so I had to think about, okay, well, what does community look like for you, Tamika? Like, what do you want in community? Right? So the purpose for this is to create a community of women who are doing maybe all of the things that I'm doing, who's doing some of the things that I'm doing, who are interested in doing some of the things that I'm doing, just to create like a real, true, authentic community. FYI, I do curse, so you may hear cursing, so here you go. I don't want any bullshit surface level community, which I feel as if, because I've tried to go into certain communities and it ended up being just that. Like, it didn't feel real, it didn't feel authentic, it didn't feel true. And so I kind of like, maybe like, just give people benefit of the doubt, like, okay, and just stick in there and try it out. But it wasn't that. or what that community claimed to be. And again, it's not to go throw shade at anyone. It's just me just realizing that this is something that's constantly happening. And I don't know if it's constantly happening for anyone else who's seeking community, but it is something that is constantly happening for me. And so the saying is, if there's not anything out there that you want or that you need, then you create it. And so that is my goal. That is my purpose within this podcast, within the stories that I tell, within the information that I share, is to create a community, because I feel like there is a lack of true, authentic community. And the reason why there is a lack of that type of community, I feel, is that people are afraid to trust each other. I believe to have a true community that can be authentic, where people can just bear all and feel safe within that space, is people being willing to be honest and be true, and not be afraid of being judged. And I think, and it's coming to me now, that's what Rooted in Muddy Waters is. Like, that's why, like, I decided to write that book, because all of those poems bared all. They bared all of me during a really hard time in my life. A really hard time in my life. And even though those times were hard, and I wrote the poems that I wrote, and I bared all. I put everything, all of my love, my emotions, my feelings, I put everything on paper. All of that happened, and I'm still able to be here, and I've grown, and I've learned, and I've evolved, and I've become a healthy individual, and I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, So that's the purpose of this. That's what I want this to be. I want this to be a community, a safe space for women who, especially women that look like me, especially women that look like me. I'm going to say that again, okay? Especially women that look just like me. Whatever nationality that you claim, you look like me. I need there to be safe space for you. I need you to know that there's community. I need you to know that you're not judged. I need to know that you are safe. And I'm not on some, there's so many trendy words, or people turn certain words into trendy, and, they just overuse certain words. And one that has kind of been on my mind, and I've kind of been like evaluating it, is the term trauma bonding. So I'm not on no trauma bonding type ish, right? That's not where I'm at. I honestly want to be able to help anyone who needs it, any woman that needs it, whether she is a stay-at-home mom that's struggling with the transition of being home with her children all the time, whether it is a mom who's a first-time homeschooler, whether it is, I don't know, just a woman who just needs someone to listen to her. Like, really creating a community, a network of women that can help each other. Us beginning to barter for the things that we need. I have herbs. Okay, what can I barter from you in exchange for these herbs that I had that you need? That type of network, that type of community. I'm a homeschool mom. I have tons and tons and tons of books. A lot of books that my children don't even need anymore. And I don't really want to sell them, and I don't want to get rid of them. But if someone needs them, they have a plethora of books to go through to get what they need, where they don't have to spend fiat. They don't have to spend their money to get the books. That type of community, that type of network. And so I guess that's what community looks like for me. Community just looks like a network of women who come from different types of different histories, who are now trying to, or not trying to, but who are actually doing the work, doing the work to raise their families, to live more holistically, to heal themselves, to freaking be happy, you know, who are homeschoolers, who are entrepreneurs, you know. There's certain areas in me being an entrepreneur that I struggle with, i.e. social media. But I have things that, and so maybe there's another mother, another woman who can be like, well, I'm good at this area of expertise. Like I'm good at social media. I'm good at, you know, knowing what to post, knowing when to post, knowing how to use these apps. Like I am good at that. You know, let's help each other out. Let's support each other. You know, let's uplift each other. Because a lot of the issues, and I think I'm going on a tangent, but bear with me, stick with me. If our women are uplifted, and if our women take back the power that we have, right? A lot of the issues that we have and a lot of the things that we see in this world that we do not like, we have the power to change. But we cannot do it alone. I cannot do it alone. It takes all of us coming together and working together. It takes us recognizing and knowing, not believing, knowing that we have power. That's where it begins. With us, with the women. And I know that. I know that. And I know that it's possible. And so we were to create a community, if we were to create a network of women who could all work together to create something so awesome, so powerful, that we start making moves and we start making changes in our community, that would be a beautiful thing. But it does start with us. It starts with us doing the work on ourselves. It starts with us doing the work within our own families or in our own households, right? That's where it starts. Yeah, that's the point and purpose. It's for me to take you on this journey of, excuse my son. It's about me taking you on this journey of how I literally just got it out the mud, literally. And I'm talking about mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and how I've grown and how I evolved, and how a lot of times when I went through this journey, I did feel alone. I did feel misunderstood. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that. Like, what does that mean to be misunderstood? You know, and is that even important, to be understood by people who really aren't even in the mind state where they can understand you, right? Like, we're going to talk about those type of things. We're going to talk about those types of healing and evolving and getting through certain things. And then we're going to also talk about like just being able to be happy, to live in this space and just feel all the feelings. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited for these conversations, and they may be hard conversations for me to even have with you all. The relationship with my mother, growing up without my father, like those are going to be hard conversations for me, and you may see tears. FYI, I am a Cancer. Don't come for me. I did not send for you. Don't come for me. But so you may see some tears on this podcast. And that's just going to be just me, just being my true authentic self. And, you know, I believe in me doing that, I'm going to attract true authentic people that want the same thing that I want. Well, that has been it for this episode, my very first episode of Rooted in Muddy Waters podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. Follow me at Rooted in Muddy Waters on Instagram and TikTok. If you'd like to support me in any way, I do have two businesses that I am building and growing. I have the Cultivating Mom, and I also have Arapel Wellness. I am the Cultivating Mom on Instagram and Facebook, and I am Arapel Wellness on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I would leave those in the description box if you want to check those out. Just get to know me a little bit more and find out what it is I'm doing, what I'm working on. And also in the comments, let me know, like, what does community look like for you, and how can we work together to create that? And let me know if you've been searching for community and you've been having the same experiences that I have, and how you're handling that. And again, I truly want to know, like, what does community look like for you? How can we work together to create that community? What are you seeking in community? Let's work together to create that. As always, sending peace and love your way. Later, loves.